and welcome to the EDFL Web TV podcast from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. You've just arrived here from the EDFL Web TV on-camera segment. My name's Teo Pellizzeri. Adem Sarakoglu is still here with me at the Sporting Globe. Adem, we're about to break down all three divisions in depth and look ahead to the upcoming weekend. We've gone through the big issues off the top, so I'll give you the new ball, so to speak. Where would you like to start as we look at the games in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division?
Yeah, just looking at the results, obviously Essendon, Doutta Stars and Maribyrnong Park, I reckon that game obviously had a lot of pertinence to what's happening in the bottom half of the draw, and credit to Essendon and Doutta Stars. I mean, they just keep seeming to win these games when the situation's at its most desperate. They seem to come through, and having a look against Marby on the weekend, they got the job done, only down by 4 points at quarter time, but from there it looked like they were pretty much in control of the game in the end, and pretty convincing winners in the end in a low-scoring game. To get the 3-goal win is really, really important. Good to see Barkavaz again. He's been quite good this year. He's quite often up the top there of the goal kicking. He got 2. Ross Slate's been quite good as well this year, and Lobby all got 2 goals. And again, Maribyrnong Park just at depth at the moment, Teo. It's really, really lacking. Don't think Paul Medhurst... No, he did play. He was goalless in the end, so don't know if he wasn't 100%, but couldn't quite get on the score sheet. But good spread of goal kickers for Maribyrnong Park. Only one man, I think Simon Cave, got the 2 goals, and the rest another 7 or 8 individual goal kickers from Maribyrnong Park. So good spread. But again, looking through that lineup, a few names that I don't recognise from games we've done in the past. But that's been a real issue for Marby this year. But Essendon and Doutta Stars, like I said, they just seem to keep getting the job done when it matters most.
We had Adrian Jamison in the box with us, and he was texting, being a Douta's man, texting people at the ground. It was almost like we had 2 live games at once, this one, and it really seemed like Marby broke the game open at the start of the final quarter, and that was just enough in what wasn't a low-scoring game, but middle-of-the-road sort of scores, just enough to get a bit of breathing space and an edge to get over the line and win. So we can't pronounce them totally safe yet, the Stars, but as far as the ladder's concerned, they get off the bottom, and they've been playing from last all season, which has been a huge mental hurdle for them to get over. And I tell you what, it certainly helps to be looking down at the teams below you rather than looking up and feeling like you've got even more of a job to do.
Yeah, you're right. It's great credit to Doutta Stars that they have been able to get off the bottom ladder, because I think they've spent most weeks down there. But, percentage is still... I know they've got the 2-game break on Marby and Northern Saints, or maybe percentage isn't necessarily that much of a factor. It's just all about making sure they keep winning now. But that last game against the Northern Saints, if there's still only 2 points between them, 2 premiership points, that is, Teo, between them in that last round, then it's going to be quite crucial in the end.
I'm just looking at the number of players Marby have used this season. They still have 22 guys that have played 5 games or less this year. Of the full 14 games, just Trent Lee Johnson, John O'Brien and Aaron Smith. Robbie Costello's played 13 out of 14, as has Luke Ryan. And then it really drops away, because then you've only got Joel Sacco, Brendan White, Nathan McClellan, Nathan Blake, Jake Byrush and Daniel Shebeki, who've played 10 games this year. And when you consider that Shebeki's VFL listed, they've actually had him for as much of the season as anyone, and I suppose that's just reflective on an inability to find a best 22, and it leaves them in this situation where they're really battling against relegation. And the individual quality in this Maribyrnong Park team cannot be questioned. There's a lot of good footballers there. The problem is that they're just not a cohesive unit. They don't train together, or enough of these players don't train together, because they're obviously off training in the VFL, and it leaves them in a situation now where they've got their backs to the wall. We'll talk about their game this weekend in the preview section, but a final thought on where Marby are at?
Whether or not they stay up again this year, there's going to be a lot of change over the summer. That much I do know. I'm hearing a lot of talk that Robbie Costello might be being groomed as Brodie Holland's potential replacement. I mean, I spoke to Robbie Costello on radio about a month ago at a Werribee VFL game. He was there, past players function, and he did tell us that he possibly does see himself as a potential future Maribyrnong Park coach, and probably a playing coach. So whether that comes into play next year, we don't know, but we do know there's plenty of change abreast for Maribyrnong Park, whether they are in Premier or Div 1 next year.
Well, I guess, and Brodie Holland with his young family is the sort of guy that's 100% or can't do the job, because if he does coach, it's got to be full dedication, research, dossiers on the opposition, game plan style, tactics, recruiting. Like, he is one of the best prepared coaches in the EDFL, and you've got to be a well prepared coach to coach in the Premier Division. But Brodie has just done so much for the club that if his level of involvement is anything less than total dedication, I think he would feel like he's selling himself short. Now, I don't mean to speak on his behalf. That's just the anecdotal evidence I've been passed on about the way he runs the club, and it is to be commended. And it's no surprise that they've won a couple of flags under his leadership. Let's move on, Adam. Where are we going next in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division?
How about the ladder leaders at the moment? They're playing against the reigning two-time Premier. The first time, of course, was against Strathmore, and Greenvale and the Moors. They met at Lebanon Reserve on Saturday, and even though Greenvale had a really good opening term, 7 goals won, they kicked to 4-4 for Strathmore, so 8 scoring shots there apiece, and Greenvale got the jump and actually led this game at 3/4 time as well, but 7 goals in the last quarter for Strathmore to 1 for Greenvale. That ended up being the difference in the end, and I suppose the game followed the expected course, but for 3 quarters, the Moors were really pushed by Greenvale in that game.
Well, my inside running on this game was that White was rucking one out for the entire day for Greenvale, and he just got ground down by the final quarter, and Strathmore took control of the centre square. Daniel Jones got on top and was able to take control of the match. But Strathmore are a very tall team, plenty of guys who can ruck, whether they're key defenders or key forwards. They can relieve the ruckman at the stoppages at either end of the ground. I see Huckstep didn't play. He's been used as a ruckman at times this year. I wouldn't say it was a short Greenvale team by any stretch of the imagination, but apparently that was the turning point and really getting control of the game in the middle. Aaron Heppel back from the VFL doing what he does very well. Sinnott, I see there in the best. I mean, we've talked about him on camera and how important he'll be to beating Avondale Heights this weekend with the outside run. And Adam Yakabuchi has to be in contention for the Reynolds medal this year because he has just had a super consistent season. He's in a team that wins more than it loses. And really, being an ex-AFL guy and an absolute blue chipper of the league, it shouldn't be any surprise that he is absolutely dominating this competition. He's been in the best 8 times this season out of his 11 games. And I suppose that's maybe the one thing that does count against him, that he hasn't played the full complement of 14 so far this year.
He's got such a great support cast as well. That's what I really, really like about Strathmore. They just bat so deep in quality. And that's what makes them one of the best teams in the league. I mean, even the side that ran out on Saturday, Nathan Lyons, I mean, a gun, Yakabuchi, Little, I know there's a couple of them down there. Horn, Arrowsmith, that list just goes on and on and on. Knight, forgot about Knight. It's a great credit to Strathmore that they've managed to keep all these boys together, because no doubt, there's got to be interest around the traps from other clubs, and they've all stuck together. Obviously, even after last year not playing finals, they've come under a new system there with Craig Clinic, and they're all clicking at the right time. It's good to see Strathmore back up and about, and they're really obviously in it up to their eyeballs at the moment and are deserving favourites for the flag.
Let's move on to Keilor's win against Pascoe Vale. Keilor kicking away to win this one after half-time. A good defensive performance in the first half to restrict Pascoe Vale and get on top, and then 6 goals to 5 in the third quarter and 4 goals to 3 in the last. So it was a fairly free-flowing and open exchange in the second half after a bit of a grind in the first. And David Gordis booting 4 goals. He continues to have a very good season for Keilor. Micah James kicking a bag of 3, so their forward line was up and firing. And interesting to see that Samuel Lowry was in the best. This is a guy who's come over from the Waffle, Essendon VFL listed. And in the best, I think it was for the first time this year, having bounced between the VFL and also Keilor. So it was his first time in the best this year. Yet another ace in the hole for Mick McGuan come finals time, and another piece to be added to that forward line. Travelling
along beautifully at the moment, Keilor, and did what they had to do against Pascoe Vale. So credit to them, and the question's got to be begged. Just how far can Keilor go this year? I mean, most people would suggest that they don't have enough to get the job done at the high end when it matters most. But
what they've got is
you can't fault them at the moment.
They've got veteran experience, and I just think in pressure finals and pressure situations, that will count for a lot. 2010, they went out in straight sets. It's the last time a Premier team has gone out in straight sets in the final series. We've had 3 years since where neither of the top two were bundled out in the preliminary finals. So this year, Keilor will almost certainly be coming from third or fourth. They're going the long way, and right now you'd have to say that Mick McGuan has the top two there to challenge for, but has to keep an eye over his shoulder for what's coming from underneath. And basically they had to bank 4 points in this game, and that's what they did. Jake Polizzi, we have to talk about him. 5 more goals. I've heard that he got a couple of goals because Keilor players were cheating, and he was left free in the forward 50 as Keilor tried to run off him on half-back, and he was able to capitalise there. But he kicked a bag of 5. He was the only multiple for Pascoe Vale, back from the VFL this year, and he really has been an excellent player for them, and an EDFL product, Hadfield originally, but certainly making his mark on Premier Division this season, and having a very good campaign.
He is a quality player, and that's the buzzword in Premier Division, Teo. It is quality, and the simple matter of the case is in this particular game, Keilor had more of it.
Now let's move on in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division to a game which captured the imagination. I seem to be using the word imagination a lot today, but Northern Saints versus Avondale Heights. It was 180 to 101 last time, and even though I went out on a limb and said it wouldn't be as high scoring this time, both teams still kicked more than 100 points. 30 the diff at three-quarter time. That was sort of the margin pretty much for the first 3 quarters, and then Northern Saints had a real crack in the last quarter, and there's a reason they got close. Rocky Ferraro, biggest bag of goals of the year. I don't know if he's suffered injuries or if it's just been form, but I would say of all the guns in Division 1 last year, Rocky Ferraro is the one who's had the toughest transition in terms of his statistical return, at least, getting into Premier Division. So him coming good at this time of the year could be priceless. He is a match winner. He does mercurial things. He has a reputation for doing amazing things at big moments as well. We saw it in the Division 1 Grand Final last year. So even though the Saints lost, Stocko's kicked another bag of 5, and if Rocky Ferraro starts kicking bags of 4 or more, then that really could improve their prospects of an upset win that would be absolutely priceless in the battle against relegation.
As we know about the Northern Saints, Teo, you're right, they are so good to watch, and it's good to see Rocky doing well there, and you're right, he's been a bit down on what we have seen in recent years. He is an excitement machine, and as is Matty Stocko. I mean, I don't think he was really in the fold last year at the Northern Saints. I don't know if he's new to the side this year, but he certainly wasn't a key feature of the last year's side that did win the flag in Division 1, but he's been quite good as well, and not surprised to see Nat Caruso get a couple goals there, but would have been great to be there, Teo, at Charles Mutton for this one. I mean, Rose and Galea, they get 10 goals between them, and then the other side, Stocko and Ferraro get 9, so it would have been a really exciting game to watch. But as we know, the Northern Saints are a bit too one-way for my liking, and that's what's been the main issue for them this year in Premier.
I tried to get some insight into this game as to whether or not 8 points was misleading, because they were coming from 30 back, so you imagine that if it's, say, 14 points with a minute to go, you know, the sting's out of the game, you kick one more and it's 8 at the end and it looks close. But no, apparently Northern Saints really did believe at times in the last quarter, so it was a genuinely close game. And Avondale Heights, I don't know if there was a bit of switch off. Well, it's at 6 goals to 3 in the last quarter. Rose and Galea have combined for 10 between them, and Grabowski's back among the goals, kicking 3. And it's interesting that Rose and Galea were both named in the best for their performances. So this wasn't just a matter of kicking goals. They must have done more than the finishing touch out there.
Yeah, and again, puts a bit of question mark on just exactly what is happening in the Avondale Heights backline at the moment. I know the Northern Saints are quite potent, but they did still give away 18 goals on the day, and their 2 best players on the ground, according to Saad Ghazi and his coaching staff, were the 2 key forwards. Question I want to put to you, though, Taylor, just back on the Northern Saints for a moment. Could you make a case, despite where they are in the ladder, are the Northern Saints the best offensive team in the league? I mean, is it possible to make a case for that, just considering just how well they can score and play some really exciting footy? I mean, I know they give away so much other way, but if you just look at them purely from an offensive point of view, how many other teams match them in that department?
No, I think they still get beaten out of the middle too often to be the best defensive team in the league. They're a free scoring team, but I think a lot of it is generated by end-to-end run and freewheeling and getting going once you've got possession of the ball and players breaking away. If they were consistently winning the ball out of the middle, then I think that they would be in no danger of relegation. Let's just a quick word. Of course, we spoke about this game extensively on camera off the top. Aberfeldie beating Airport West. Let's get to some of the issues that we didn't mention. Our Sporting Globe Player of the Day, winning the $40 voucher, was Jack McNamara for his 4 goals. Aberfeldie also named him the best of field. He probably had 10 possessions in the final quarter roaming up around the ground. So he ended up kicking 4 and getting a lot of the pill. Reece Moylan was pretty unlucky, all things considered, given that he had an outstanding day. Mark Blake, solid again, been good the last 2 times we've seen them. Same with Luke Davis. And then, what did you make of some of the other Aberfeldie players who perhaps weren't so prominent and may have been the reason why Airport West was able to get a run on in the third quarter and come back into the match?
Really like Jacob Hislop. Every time I see him play, he's a real workhorse of this team and does a lot of good things, and he wasn't named in the best, but he still kicked 2 goals on the day. I really do like how Jacob Hislop goes about it. Tom Hislop was back in the side. We know how important he is for leadership, and obviously a really quality player with a little bit of AFL experience there as well. So, again, we know how deep Marby bats. Cubillo, I really liked his leadership. I actually gave him a vote in the Sporting Globe Player of the Day votes, and it's good to see, by the way, that
he's the best tackler in their team, I reckon.
Yeah.
Cubillo, yeah.
As I say, it's good to see that our best of the field matches with the coaching staffs. It's always a good sign, Teo, that us in the box are clicking with those that matter, know most about and know best exactly who is having an influence on the game, which is good to see. I really like Adam Alhuli as well. I've been a big fan of his for a couple of years. I really like the I suppose key defenders that can attack and become a dangerous threat once they do go forward as centre. So many good players in this Aberfeldie lineup, and when they're all clicking, they're pretty hard to stop.
I want to talk about one matchup which we thought was interesting throughout the course of the day. Marcus White, named in the best for Airport West, a midfielder who's now found a role off half back, and he was sent to the Kyle Reimers, and we kept count, and he had 7 possessions and kicked 2 goals. And I suppose, if anything, that's in keeping of what he does. If he gets to 10 possessions, he'll kick 3. If he gets to 15 possessions, he'll have 5 goals. And if you let him get off the chain and have 20 touches, you're at risk of him kicking 10 goals. So I think Airport West, even though my suspicions at the time was that they were robbing Peter to pay Paul, perhaps it was necessary to put one of their guns, Marcus White, on Kyle Reimers.
I don't want to compare Kyle Reimers to Cyril Rioli, but...
you just did.
No, I'm not. Teo, Cyril does not get the 30-plus numbers every week. It's what you do with the ball when you have got it. I'm pretty sure that's why Kyle is there. He's an impact player. He kicked a pretty good goal. I think it was a snap around the body, and I think it ended up the only goal he did kick. I know he kicked another one, but that was a pretty important goal at that stage because it really gave Aberfeldie momentum. He's an impact player. You don't necessarily want to look at his numbers and how much he is getting the ball. It's about what he does when he gets it, and a lot of people tend to overlook that, especially at the higher end, obviously, at AFL level, but at this level as well. People are just going to look on Sporting Pulse, he's not in the best, he got a goal here or there, he's had a couple of bags of 5 or 6 in a couple of weeks, and I think he kicked 10 maybe in a reserves game once.
No, it was 12, but put that in context, it was 180 points to 6.
My point is, though, you don't want to look at the numbers necessarily. The numbers don't necessarily give you a picture of what impact he has on games, so it's okay he's only getting the ball 10 times a game, Teo. If you can have 10 different impacts and 10 different acts in the game that can influence momentum and ultimately the result, then that's what he's paid to do.
Now, have I been misled by Gavin Urquhart's eye-catching Max Rookish appearance, or was he maybe the best for Airport West by an absolute street? It just seemed as though he was their most prolific ball winner for 4 quarters, as opposed to their most prolific ball winner when they got the run on, which he did actually play a big part in, but it seemed as though he was the guy that really was in the trenches all day and moving the chains, to borrow some NFL parlance, because it seemed as though he was the guy who was kicking for distance and getting them out of trouble in defence or winning the ball in the middle. I thought he played really well for Airport West, and it's a show of that ex-AFL quality and what can be done out there.
Yeah, well, the ball was coming down there a lot, Teo, wasn't it? So he was certainly getting plenty of opportunities to do something with it. And you're right, he even kicked a goal from as a backman. It's a really good result. Anytime a backman kicks a goal and can get the ball 15, 20 times, then you're always going to be among your best players. So yeah, you're right. I agree. I reckon Urquhart was the clear standout. I really like Harris's game as well, though. Daniel Harris. Not surprised that he got amongst the best as well. Kicked a goal, and yeah, if it wasn't for Harris and Urquhart, this would have been an absolute belting, perhaps by 3 figures.
Now let's look ahead to the weekend and get some tips. If you want to see the tip for our broadcast game, Avondale Heights versus Strathmore, that is on the video you just came from on the EDFL YouTube channel, EDFL Web TV. Now let's talk about Aberfeldie versus Keilor. Crucial game for Keilor. They win this one, they're just about certainties to make the top 4, and they can have real ambitions for the top 2 if they are to snare this one and go on from here. Last time they played, it was 119 to 70, so Aberfeldie got a hold of Keilor in the third quarter and kicked actually 8 unanswered goals to win that day. Darcy Danaher, Courtney Johns, Lance Oswald, who Aberfeldie have really been missing, they all were able to kick a bag that day, and Keilor didn't have anyone boot more than 2. So can Keilor close the gap, and more importantly, can Keilor win?
Yes, they can. If both sides rock up, Aberfeldie wins, hands down. Aberfeldie doesn't rock up every week, though, Teo, do they? That's the big question. And Keilor is good enough to beat Aberfeldie if Aberfeldie's just a little bit off, but you just never know, because Keilor's been pretty consistent for mine this year. Abers, it all depends on which side of the bed they wake up on in the morning. After that little rev up from Mal Michael that we showed earlier in the show today, Teo, and that the listeners would have heard on Saturday evening, I reckon Uppers gets up in this one.
Greenvale versus Essendon Doutta Stars. 1 kick game last time. Agonising loss for the Stars. This time around, I think I'm a bit more bullish about Greenvale's chances of winning this one well. Is it too little too late, though, as far as their finals charge? It's absolutely no excuses. They have to win. But even then, it seems as though they're coming from a long way back.
Yeah, this is win or go home for Greenvale, so could well be for Essendon Doutta Stars as well. So I'm not sure exactly where to go with this one in terms of who needs this win more. Just going to go with Greenvale because they should beat a better team. Simple as that.
Interesting story during the week. Christian Bookavars was actually struck by Gareth Daly, allegedly, according to an umpire's report, but did not attend the tribunal, and so he is free to play this weekend, but there was a bit of a mix-up, a bit of a miscommunication. Hopefully, whatever transpired there, he feels no grievance towards Daly, who himself is free to play. And Daly was Maribyrnong Park's best last week, heading into the game against Pascoe Vale this week. So what do you make of the situation there? Marby and Paco, last time they played, Paco were 5 goals up at three-quarter time and basically threw it away. That was Marby's most recent win. They've lost to the entire league since. How do you read this one?
I'm going with Paco, Teo. They've really turned things around in recent weeks for mine. I know they got done last week, but were pretty good for certain stages against Keilor, and obviously getting the win against Aberfeldie. Maribyrnong Park, their drop-off has been quite dramatic. I'm going for Paco on this one. Just got a feeling that they're going to be able to get the job done. And, Marby, I know it's desperate for them, but Pascoe Vale wins, Teo.
Airport West, they'll be demoralised. Their finals chances by no means shot, but severely damaged. Could they be ripe for the picking by an opportunistic Northern Saints?
Yeah, they could be, but Airport West again, they're only 1 game out from the 4 now, and they'll be wanting to bounce back against Northern Saints, and I believe they win that game.
That's it for Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. Just repeating, if you want to hear the tip for our Match of the Day broadcast, Avondale Heights versus Strathmore, make sure you jump on the video you just came from, EDFL Web TV for round 15/16. We're here at the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. Great atmosphere as we transition over to Essendon Ford Division 1. They've got the doors and the windows open today. Nice, cool, springish feel already, almost like September has arrived early. So a great place to come and enjoy a beer. Got to say, it'd be nice if we weren't working at them. We could have a few while we sit here and talk footy. But let's move on to Essendon Ford Division 1 and talk about some of the results at the weekend. We spoke off the top about Taylors Lakes beating West Coburg. When the score came through at the weekend, it was actually 11-22-100 to 11-12-78. So I thought that they'd won by 22 points, not by 12. It kind of changes things if you say it's only a 2-kick game. Makes it sound a little bit better for West Coburg, I reckon, like it was a much closer contest. Yeah,
like I said, though, before, Teo, I'm not really worried about this one for West Coburg whatsoever. They had to drop one sooner or later, but a little bit surprised it was Taylor's Lakes. But you know, we've been toing and froing a little bit about Taylor's Lakes this year. Are they the third best team in the league? Are they the biggest challenger to Tullamarine and West Coburg? The answer is probably yes, because the only other challenger is Westmeadows, and they probably don't have enough in the tank to get the job done there. But yeah, congratulations to Taylor's Lakes. It keeps their pretty slim flag hopes alive. I don't know if they can go all the way, though.
I am not buying pretty slim. You've got to be in it to win it. They've beaten the top team. I think their opportunity here is much greater. And the one thing I will agree with you on is that all their guns have to play well. Mark D'Souza, Andrew Crowe, Matt Morelli, Anthony Longo, Mark Zureb, Stephen Tiepo's having a breakout season, Apprenticeship Groups Australia Rising Star nominee. Jake D'Souza's kicked 5 at the weekend. Adam Asani's been consistent all year. And their backline got a great reputation. Galina's down there. They normally have Wright as well. Taylor. And also Nathan Allen, one of those important talls. But I guess that's the one knock on them. They all have to be out there and they all have to be fit. I think the question's over their depth. Yeah,
you're right. So much experience, and they've been there and done it before. But you know, to beat Tullamarine and West Coburg, which is what you'll have to do in the finals to win that flag back to back, in whichever order, it's a little bit too tough for Taylor's Lakes. They just go missing, it seems, in certain games, and I haven't seen them live this year. I really desperately want to see them live so that I can get a decent look at exactly what they bring to the table. But you know, they're just too inconsistent for mine. I know at their best they're certainly going to be competitive, but they're just a step or two behind. I just want to see them live, Taylor. That's the key. I can't work it out. Can't make an informed judgment until I see them.
Well, you can do the next best thing, and that's watch the footage on EDFL.tv, because the full game is up there, and you can either stream it online or download it and watch it at your leisure. Let's have a quick word on Westmeadows versus Hadfield. The game went the way we expected. Perhaps took a little bit longer than we expected for Westmeadows to break away. I thought Hadfield were a decent chance in this one, but in the end, after it was just 5 points at three-quarter time, Westmeadows kicked 5-1 in the final quarter. Luke Wilson with 3. They also had the interesting situation where one of their main off-season recruits, Ibrahim Atik, was in the twos for a couple of weeks. He came back in and played well. Shane Barry, another off-season recruit, played well. And also Dan Caligari down in defence, ever reliable. So Hadfield beaten again, still in danger of relegation. What do you make of this one? Is there much to say, or is this just one that Westmeadows will put in the bank as they roll on towards what inevitably feels like that elimination final against Taylor's Lakes?
Tick for Westmeadows. Hadfield struggling. That's it. Let's move on.
All right, and we move on to Oak Park versus Glenroy. We thought this was two teams with little at stake last week, and Oak Park would get the win, but no. They've done it to us again, Adam. They've got close, but they haven't won. They've got what if I may shamelessly steal a phrase, they've got bad team syndrome, in that they can play very well for long periods of time, but where a good team will go on and win, a bad team loses. And unfortunately for Oak Park, that is their 7th loss of the season by 20 points or less. I said it on camera, but it bears repeating, because a good team, you know, breaks even 4-3. A middle of the road team is 3-4 or 2-5. A bad team loses 7 out of 7.
Yeah, they did keep Glenroy goalless in the last quarter, and scored 2 goals 9. They were quite inaccurate, and they kicked themselves out of that one. They'll be ruining that one, Oak Park. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that had they have won, they were almost just about safe. So absolutely crucial that they can get it right and start putting together some four-quarter footy.
Veterans getting it done for Glenroy: Danny Campbell, Joseph Sayers, Adam Barden, and we also saw Kyneton Borg kick 3 goals each. It's been a real season of mid-table obscurity for Glenroy. I don't think we ever seriously thought they were going to get relegated. It was probably only a couple of weeks where we thought they were getting their groove back and could get into the top 4. They've just been drifting in the middle of the ladder, and this is one that they'll want to forget quickly, 2014. Oak Park, Aidan Harris, very good player, but only the 2 goals at the weekend, and no one kicked more than 2. German in the best again. Dean Clare in the best again, played really well in the radio game that we went to the week before. But, another frustrating result there for Oak Park, and their season remains in danger because Craigieburn defeating Hillside comfortably in the end. Adam, you had a point to make on this game or the game we're leaving?
Looking forward to them two in action next year. I reckon they're two clubs that they're going to be contenders next year, and
Glenroy
got a lot of quality in it. Yep,
okay.
Next year that's going to be really exciting when them two clubs meet up, because I think they'll both be significantly higher on the ladder in 12 months' time.
And so we do move on to Craigieburn versus Hillside, with Nick Fletcher booting 4, Jake Laley and Justin Maul 3 each. That was the scoring power. That it was also reflected in the best players. Craigieburn kicking one of their biggest scores of the year. Fab Delezia kept up his good form, 6 more for him, but not enough mates sharing the scoring load in the end. Jared Catania in the best again. He was injured, as we know, through the first half of the year, and now that he's back in the best, he doesn't seem to be leaving it any time soon, so he's playing really well. And as far as the scoring in this game is concerned, Craigieburn raced out to a massive lead and made it count in the final quarter when the game petered out 3-2. So in the end, a very comfortable 35 points.
Yeah, it was pretty comfortable, and you'd like to think that complacency hasn't crept into the psyche of Hillside, but perhaps it has. I haven't heard too much fallout of this one, but it's good to see, firstly, Fabio Delizia in some good form. We know he blitzed Division 2 last year, and congratulations to him getting another bag of 6. But
I'm thrilled, because can I read you a passage in the Footballer this week that you mentioned complacency at Hillside? If I may,
I'd love to hear it, Teo, because
I'm not going to point out when
you're
I'm
a bit of an enigma at Hillside for mine.
I am going to point out when I'm right, so if I may indulge for just a moment. It means there might just be a sense of, quote, job done, end quote, and some relaxation from Hillside this weekend. So there we go. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
All that shows is that great minds think alike, I think, Teo. Yeah, they're not safe, though, Teo. They're only 2 games back, so...
I think they're safe.
I think they're safe too, but mathematically they're not. So they want to make sure they put in a better effort. But perhaps we're underselling Craigieburn. They can play some pretty good footy when they get going.
All right, so we move on now to round 16, crucial weekend. Let's start with Hadfield versus Glenroy. Glenroy winning a game which we thought had little on the line for them. Similar situation this week. Pride on the line for Glenroy, survival on the line for Hadfield. 2 near neighbours and near rivals. Can they get up at Martin Reserve and retake the initiative from Craigieburn, who themselves have the bye this weekend? And bear in mind that even a narrow defeat for Hadfield will improve their percentage. I know it's scant consolation and a win would be much more important, but if they have a narrow loss, their percentage will go up, and they'll get even more of an advantage on Craigieburn, who don't play.
Yeah, 2 local rivals, almost walking distance to 2 grounds, but I know a lot of the boys in the sides are mates off the field, so don't know if that changes anything in terms of what's going to happen between mate. 2 and 5. Yeah, mate against mate. There's going to be a fair bit of that, obviously, every time Hadfield plays against Glenroy. I might almost tip Hadfield in this one. I'm not confident about it, but they're a pretty good showing in this one, because Glenroy is playing for absolutely nothing. I mean, they can start planning their end of season trip and where they're going, and obviously Lance Meador can have a bit of a look at what he's got for 2015, and Hadfield are in the fight of our lives at the moment, so just a bit more to play for. I reckon Hadfield could just get one up there.
Westmeadows versus West Coburg. It'll be interesting to see how West Coburg respond to finally being beaten. Will they win? Will it be a big win? Or can Westmeadows extend their losing streak to 2 in a row?
I want to see Westmeadows push West Coburg all the way, and I'm pretty sure Dave Connell's going to have his men believing that they can win this game. He did tell us a couple of weeks ago on EDFL review on the Match of the Day coverage that they go into every single game thinking they can win. That's the attitude they've got to take, and if they do that, they're a chance. I mean, I know the game is at it is at West Coburg, is it not, Teo?
No, it's at
Willowbrook. They play Willowbrook extremely well, Westmeadows, and obviously last time out there, big win for Tank McLean's 400th against Oak Park. Westmeadows to push them all the way, but I think West Coburg aren't going to drop 2 in a row.
It wasn't close last time, 122 to 67, so they've got a big gap to close. Taylor's Lakes versus Tullamarine. I think this one will be a game played at 3/4 pace. Ash Manning will be keeping the cards close to his chest. Steve Burns will probably want to harness the momentum and go for the win, but I just didn't have it in me to tip Taylor's Lakes to do it again, to the top pair. But I just get the feeling that unlike last week where Taylor's Lakes came out and proved a point, this one, what can be proven here? Form would suggest that these two are going to be meeting in the prelim finals, so there's every incentive for both of them to not give away all the tricks.
Taylor's Lakes can prove that they are worthy contenders if they get up or if at least push Taylor's Lakes Tullamarine all the way. But I've got a feeling that there's really not much in this one, so won't be looking too close to the results, to be honest, this week, Taylor, from this game, because neither team really gains anything out of it other than making sure that everyone gets through clean.
And Hillside versus Oak Park, we've saved the best until last. Hillside can mathematically secure their survival, and Oak Park can take a big step towards survival of their own, and as you suggested, Adam, perhaps pull Hillside back into the mix, although it'd have to be a thrashing because I think Hillside's percentage still holds them in pretty good stead. But is there another twist in the tail here? And Oak Park, who have Hadfield and Craigieburn in their last 2 games to come after this one, can they finally break through and get just their 4th win of the season?
They certainly can, and they should go in as potential favourites against Hillside, even though the game is at Shark Park. Hillside, though, they want to bounce back. I mean, it's inexplicable some of these losses they've had this year after such a great start to the year, and they'll be believing they're a better team than Oak Park. But I think the fact that last year Oak Park was a Premier side, Hillside was Division 2 side, that's probably the reason why Oak Park got the win the first time around. So, Oak Park should win, but wouldn't be surprised either way.
We're at the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. This is EDFL Web TV, the podcast segment. And don't forget, if you want to look to the weekend ahead for our EDFL Match of the Day broadcast, just click back to the video you came from, and you can watch the preview there of Avondale Heights versus Strathmore. All right, Division 2. And not the most noteworthy weekend of the season. Lots of low-scoring games, and let's start with Jacana versus Coburg Districts. This was perhaps the one with the most on the line as far as the top 4 was concerned. Jacana looking to prove their case against the team that is waiting for whoever finishes 4th in that first week of the finals, and in the end they came up short. The word out of Jacana, I hear, is that just the accumulation of injuries and suspensions ultimately came back to bite them. They didn't have the depth, and a 6-0 first quarter meant they were always chasing their tail.
Yep. Good on Coburg Districts. I mean, they've got to start winning some of these big games. I know they're still yet to beat East Keilor or Roxy. They might get their chance this weekend. But did the job on the road. Really good win for Coburg Districts, and Jacana really is suffering at the moment with personnel issues, so no real surprises there.
All right, we move on to Roxburgh Park. They're back on the winners list straight away. We spoke off the top about Keilor Park and the coaching change. I've been told that this one was close till half-time, and Keilor Park kicked abysmally, 3:15 for the day, but they were 1-10 to half-time. And I'm told that was a genuine 1-10. They weren't, a series of rush behinds or, boundary throw-ins that just get knocked through for a harmless point. These were bad misses. So it was 38-16 at half-time, and then Roxburgh Park kicked 4-1 in the third quarter, and it was all over Red Rover, 40 points the difference in a low-scoring game. So what do you take out of this one other than Tim Blacker got back in the team and kicked 3 goals? And, most of the prime movers for Roxburgh Park contributed to what was a fairly ugly win.
Did Matt Mickelson play?
He did. He kicked 1 goal.
He is there. Look, even though Keilor Park had more scoring shots, no real surprises. Roxy needed to bounce back. I think they were coming off a loss or a recent enough loss against East Keilor. So, again, you're right. Well, it wasn't a great weekend for Division 2 footy. I mean, it was pretty all stock standard. I know Keilor Park had the more scoring shots, but it's all about scoreboard pressure, and Roxy were comfortably in control of that one.
Now, Burnside Heights versus East Sunbury. This was an interesting result. James Wakeling kicked 6 more, kicked a big bag of goals last time, and was our Sporting Globe Player of the Day, winning the $40 voucher. But that was the only similarity. Burnside Heights trailing at quarter time, kicking to the front by half time. Still in front only by 19 points at three-quarter time, and then 7-1 in the last quarter. Actually blew this one out. 6 multiple goal kickers for Burnside Heights. This was a memorable win. They will almost certainly, 99.9% certain to avoid the wooden spoon now. And I've got to say, it's the best win in the club's history. They've only had 2, but this is the sort of win that when they have their best and fairest count at the end of the year, when they have their Mad Monday, assuming they have a Mad Monday, this is what they'll be reminiscing about. This is the win that they'll remember.
Big day for the footy club. I'm pretty sure they won all 3 games on the Saturday. That's the first time they've done that in all 3 grades.
Well, a great weekend for Burnside Heights then, and Adam, as you suggested off-air to me a moment ago, this was like a test series, and ultimately, Burnside Heights comes away the winner. The question is now, how many more do they win next year? Who will be the first established club that Burnside Heights can knock off as their improvement continues, if anyone, next year?
Oh, that's way too far into the future.
Too far into the future?
Put me on the spot. I don't have a clue how to answer that question.
Well, okay, if I was to
maybe
a little bit
Keilor
simpler,
Park, maybe? I don't know.
A little bit simpler. Yes or no? Will they beat an established team next season?
Burnside Heights?
Yes. So I'm going to say yes. I think they will.
I
think they'll improve enough. They'll know their best 22 from round one rather than using 45 senior players. So I reckon that gives them a really good chance. And hey, they may even open the purse strings for the right player, or a playing assistant coach, and that could make a fundamental difference to the way that they line up.
I'll say yes, but I'm pretty sure they would need a particular club, whoever it may be, to drop away pretty badly.
All right, and one other game to talk about in Division 2, East Keilor defeating Moonee Vale, another middle-of-the-road scoring game, not high-scoring, not low-scoring, bit of a slog, and in the end, Brendan Lucas and also Anthony Mondio getting the East Keilor team home with 6 of their 11 goals. Much to say about this one other than Moonee Vale have let another opportunity slip to claim 4th place, another narrow defeat that protects their percentage, but there's still a win behind Jacana and Keilor Park, and right now it's the wins that matter.
Yeah, only 8 points in this one at half-time, and then East Keilor went bang in the third quarter, kicked 3 of the 4 goals kicked in that term. So they're slowly getting there, I think, and getting their form back. I did see Dave Battistella in the leader newspaper this week. He said that even though the top 2 is locked in, the foot isn't coming off the pedal. They still want to make sure they go into the finals in top form. They don't want to be resting too many players, and I really like that. It's quite a bold and aggressive sort of move for East Keilor to make sure they really build on this momentum and gain some confidence going into finals, because I think recent history does suggest it doesn't necessarily matter who's been the best team all year when it comes to grand final day and finals themselves. It's who's the best team in form at the time. So that's going to be pretty important for East Keilor, and getting that win against Roxy the week before, that's going to be really important as well in terms of that recent form and confidence.
So we move on to the predictions for Division 2 Round 16. Don't forget you can hear Around the Ground scores from all of these games as part of EDFL Match of the Day, Northwest FM 98.9 and the EDFL Team app on Saturday. Coburg Districts against East Keilor. So this is the 5th and final chance that Coburg Districts will get to beat one of the top 2 during the home and away season. Can they do it at the 5th time of asking? And this is their 3rd head-to-head crack against the Cougars.
They can, but they won't, just based on what I said before. I think East Keilor are really trying to build something at the moment, and they should be too good for Coburg Districts just on paper, really.
Queen's Birthday weekend on the Monday, East Sunbury versus Jacana was really entertaining and quite close for a half a footy before Jacana got away. I fear it won't be quite as close this time around. What are your thoughts?
Big chance for Jacana to boost their percentage. They really, really need it, so I'm expecting a big win for the Jags.
Roxburgh Park versus Burnside Heights. Nothing to see here. Burnside Heights, any chance they can maybe nick a quarter off Roxburgh Park? Or do you think the Magpies, as they start to count down towards finals, will be looking for a 4-quarter effort and not to let up or show any mercy to the 2-win team?
To be completely honest, Teo, even if Burnside Heights do take a quarter off Roxburgh Park, I don't think the Maggies really care. And not really much in this game at all.
No, we move straight on then to Moonee Vale versus Keilor Park. This is the one that's high stakes. Moonee Vale win. They can stay within a win of Jacana and stay on their heels and knock Keilor Park down to 6th. Keilor Park win. They stay ahead of Jacana, regardless of how much Jacana beats East Sunbury by, because right now they've got a 21-point percentage gap. So Jacana can't wipe that out in one fell swoop. Who will get the win here?
I reckon Moonee Vale does. This is a virtual final, and obviously the pick of the games in Division 2 this weekend. Would love to be at Ormond Park if it wasn't for the broadcast game, obviously. Moonee Vale wins this one for mine. I mentioned before they probably are the best team out of that 3-team cluster there in the middle of the table. Keilor Park, Jacana and Moonee Vale. The Valley are the pick of those teams and should be too good for Keilor Park, who obviously have had that coaching change as recently as a couple of days ago.
Well, that's it for the EDFL Web TV podcast. Make sure you click back through to the EDFL YouTube channel. Adam Sarakoglu, thank you very much.
Thanks again, Tayo.
And make sure you stay with us and join us back here at the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds next week. Click the links to go back through to EDFL Web TV.